You open your eyes, and already you're drained. The day hasn't even started, yet your body feels heavy, your mind foggy. You sit up, staring blankly into the distance, burdened by thoughts, pressures, expectations. Your phone buzzes insistently, pulling you back into a world that demands constant availability. You're told, push harder. You got this. But here's something no one's probably said clearly. You're not just tired. You're caught in a widespread epidemic. It's not just you, it's the world around you. You've become your own harshest boss. The voice that once came from outside is now whispering from inside your head, telling you endlessly, do more, be better, never stop. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the burnout society, a system that makes you believe you're free, but actually traps you deeper. You're pushed into believing that every second must have a purpose. Every action must lead to something meaningful. And if you stop or slow down, suddenly you feel worthless. But maybe no one has told you this clearly enough yet. You're not lazy. You're exhausted, burned out. And the truth is, the problem isn't just you. It's the society we all live in. Today's burnout isn't obvious. There's no angry boss yelling, no obvious restrictions or visible chains. Instead, there's something subtle yet far crueler, an invisible pressure to constantly perform. Have you ever felt guilty just because you weren't productive enough? Like you wasted the day, even though you were busy from sunrise until well after sunset? That heavy feeling, creeping into your chest as you glance over your unfinished tasks. Anxious because your phone is blinking with notifications you haven't replied to yet. Each unanswered message feeling like a silent accusation. A whisper saying, you're falling behind. What you're experiencing is burnout. Not the kind that's easily solved by a weekend getaway or a few hours binge watching your favorite series. This burnout runs deeper. It's a slow, persistent drain on your spirit, quietly pulling your energy away, leaving you empty and numb on the inside, even as you smile politely and tell everyone around you that you're doing fine. If this feels painfully familiar, please know it's not accidental. It's not your fault. It's a symptom, and you're not alone. You're part of a much larger system, one that convinces us this constant, grinding exhaustion is completely normal. But let's get something clear. It's absolutely not normal. We weren't designed to live in perpetual anxiety, constantly trying to prove our worth through endless productivity. This video isn't here to give you yet another motivational speech, urging you to hustle harder or manage your time better. This is your wake-up call, the gentle shake of your shoulders to remind you that something's wrong, not with you, but with the way society defines success, happiness, and strength. Maybe this is the first time someone has plainly said this to you. You're not weak, you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. You're simply trying your best to survive in a society that, ironically, makes strong, ambitious, and capable people sick. You're pushing yourself through each day, wondering why you feel drained when you're doing everything right according to society's playbook. But what if the playbook is the problem, not you? Once, control was easy to recognize. It was out in the open, obvious to everyone. Think about factories, offices, schools, places with clear rules posted on the wall, voices barking commands. Sit still. Keep quiet. Follow instructions. You knew exactly who was in charge, exactly what was expected of you, exactly what would happen if you didn't obey. It wasn't always pleasant, but at least it was simple, predictable. Philosopher Michel Foucault described this clearly structured world as a disciplinary society, where authority was visible and direct. Someone else always gave orders, and your only job was to listen, follow, and fit in. There was always someone watching over your shoulder, correcting, adjusting, shaping you into exactly what society demanded. But look around today, and you'll notice that obvious control is fading away, replaced by something subtle and, if we're honest, far more dangerous. Nobody openly forbids you anymore. Nobody says you can't. Instead, we're surrounded by messages of limitless possibility. You can do anything you set your mind to, they tell you. Success is just a matter of hard work, determination, and hustle. It sounds inspiring, right? Who doesn't want unlimited potential, endless opportunities, the power to shape your own future? Yet hidden in these motivational words is a sneaky, insidious trap. Because when society convinces you that everything depends entirely on your effort, every success feels earned, but every failure feels devastatingly personal. If you don't achieve your goals, you don't blame the system or circumstances, you blame yourself. You internalize it, believing you're just not disciplined enough, driven enough, strong enough. Welcome, my friend, to the burnout society. This is the era we're all living in now, a world without physical prisons, but filled with endless goals and unspoken expectations. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this phenomenon becoming an entrepreneur of yourself. Think about what that means. An entrepreneur never clocks out. An entrepreneur never stops improving, innovating, growing. There's always more they could be doing, another goal they could achieve, another milestone waiting just ahead. And so you constantly chase more productivity, more achievement, more optimization, until even your rest and relaxation become tasks to manage and goals to reach. Rest isn't rest anymore, it's recovery. It's strategic downtime designed specifically to make you even more productive tomorrow. Suddenly, the simplest, most human activities become something you need to track, measure, and perfect. Your sleep isn't just sleep anymore. It's sleep quality, sleep optimization, perfect bedtime routines. Your hobbies aren't for enjoyment. They're side hustles, opportunities for personal branding, extra streams of income. Even relationships become opportunities to network, connect, and advance your personal agenda. Life becomes one endless self-improvement project with no clear finish line. And here's the cruel irony. The more control you seem to have over your life, the less free you actually feel. Because there's no room for imperfection anymore. No space to simply exist without justification, without purpose, without guilt. Your worth becomes tied to constant movement forward. The idea of just existing, just being without trying to achieve or improve something, feels wrong, lazy, irresponsible. This invisible pressure, this subtle form of control, might feel empowering at first, but in reality, it traps you in a cycle of never-ending stress, anxiety, and self-criticism. You're not just responsible for your successes, you carry the full burden of every single failure. Because if you truly have limitless potential, then failing to meet your goals means failing yourself. It becomes personal, painful, isolating. So take a moment right now and consider something radical. What if the endless push towards self-optimization isn't freedom at all, but a new kind of prison? A prison whose walls you can't see, but whose effects you deeply feel. What if true freedom means having the courage to stop, rest, and simply be enough, as you are right now, without needing to constantly prove yourself to anyone, least of all yourself? Somewhere along the way, you've stopped simply living your life, and instead, you started managing yourself like a project. Every moment needs to justify itself. Every action, every decision, every quiet hour has to somehow contribute to becoming better, faster, more productive. And if you stumble, if you struggle, if you dare fall behind, the person you blame isn't society, your boss, or the people around you. You blame yourself. After all, Nobody explicitly forced you to live this way, right? Nobody physically restricted your freedom. Nobody clearly said, you must turn every moment into productivity. On the surface, you have absolute freedom. You're making these choices willingly. At least that's what you believe. But here's the hidden cruelty of it all. The new form of oppression isn't obvious. It doesn't yell commands or lock you behind physical walls. Instead, it whispers to you softly, constantly reinforcing the idea that this relentless self-demand, this constant pressure for improvement, is something you've chosen for yourself. It convinces you that you're voluntarily pushing yourself into exhaustion. You think you're free, yet you're trapped more deeply than ever, shackled by your own expectations, your own internalized pressures. You see, control has fundamentally shifted. The pressure no longer comes primarily from your boss or society looking over your shoulder. No, now it's you who's watching yourself. You've internalized society's demands so deeply that you push yourself harder than anyone else ever could. You're the one setting impossible standards. You're the one punishing yourself when you inevitably fall short. And because of this, the prison walls have become invisible, built brick by your own expectations, productivity goals, and harsh self-criticism. And those invisible walls, they're far more powerful than physical barriers, because it's hard, almost impossible, to pinpoint exactly where society's expectations end and yours begin. You've become so accustomed to living under this internal pressure that it's nearly impossible to see the difference anymore. Where is society pushing you, and where are you pushing yourself? The lines blur, leaving you confused, overwhelmed, and increasingly exhausted. This internal exhaustion doesn't come from an obvious external enemy. It comes from within. And the fuel that feeds this self-destructive cycle might surprise you. It's something deceptively positive. It's the promise that you can always do better, achieve more, and be endlessly productive. It's positivity twisted into pressure, inspiration transformed into a burden. This is the silent poison we'll explore next. The idea that limitless positivity and relentless ambition, rather than setting you free, might actually be the thing holding you prisoner. You've learned how to smile even when inside you're barely holding yourself together. You've mastered the art of nodding politely, reassuring everyone around you. Yeah, I'm fine. Even when you're one small step from completely collapsing. It's become second nature to hide how you really feel. You're good at this now, maybe too good. Nobody else can see that invisible weight, the heaviness that seems to settle in your chest, squeezing tighter with each passing day. But why do we do this? Why do we pretend to be okay when clearly we're not? It's because the new type of violence we face every day doesn't yell or threaten. It doesn't even seem aggressive. Instead, it motivates, encourages, inspires. It hides itself cleverly behind positivity and motivation, pushing you forward relentlessly. It whispers with a warm smile, "You've got this. Keep going. You can achieve anything." At first glance, that sounds great. Who doesn't want endless optimism and unlimited potential? Yet beneath this bright, shiny surface lies something darker and more damaging. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han warns us that the greatest threat we face today isn't strict discipline or rigid rules. It's the never-ending expectation to always be positive, productive, and perfectly happy. In the 21st century, he argues, we're no longer oppressed by obvious external restrictions. Instead, we're chained to a quiet but constant pressure to do more, achieve more, and feel better. Depression, anxiety, burnout, these aren't just individual struggles or random bad luck anymore. They're actually symptoms, widespread responses to a world that demands non-stop productivity, positivity, and performance. And the cruelest part? This modern system makes you blame yourself when things go wrong. Feel lazy today? Clearly, it's your fault. You didn't try hard enough. Feeling unmotivated or distracted? You must not have practiced gratitude or disciplined your mind properly. Tired, anxious, or burned out? Obviously, you didn't maintain a positive attitude. The blame always circles back to you. Every moment of struggle becomes your responsibility, your failure, your personal shortcoming. It's subtle but deeply toxic. The more you chase this unrealistic ideal of constant productivity, the further you drift from who you truly are. The harder you try to achieve this endless positivity, the emptier you feel inside. Suddenly, positivity isn't uplifting. It's suffocating. It becomes an obligation, something you must constantly maintain. Everywhere you look, you're surrounded by messages telling you, be your best self, and dream bigger, work harder. On the surface, they seem harmless, even inspiring. But behind these motivational words lurks a quiet, insidious pressure, an impossible standard, reminding you that nothing you do will ever truly be enough. And because of this, even resting feels stressful. Because when you rest, your mind whispers anxiously, am I wasting time? Could I be doing something better right now? Every free moment becomes another opportunity to optimize, fix, or improve. You never really get to rest, because true rest demands permission to be imperfect, to pause without guilt. But instead, you're always running, always trying, trapped on a treadmill that speeds up the harder you push yourself forward. You think you're in control, but the truth is, you're simply moving faster in place, exhausting yourself more deeply each day. But here's what you need to remember. You weren't born feeling this way. This relentless, exhausting lifestyle isn't natural. It's not inevitable. It was created, piece by piece, expectation by expectation. Slowly, without you noticing, it buried something precious within you, your simple ability to exist, your right to simply be without needing to constantly justify your existence by productivity or performance. You're exhausted because you're everywhere except within yourself. You're always moving outward, achieving, producing, managing, but rarely taking a moment to truly check in, rarely taking time to breathe, to acknowledge your own feelings, to genuinely exist without guilt or pressure. And now, as you stand surrounded by achievements, by completed tasks, and optimized routines, you realize something vital got lost along the way. Your inner peace, your sense of balance, your ability to simply enjoy being alive. When was the last time you allowed yourself to truly do nothing, without that creeping sense of guilt, whispering you should be doing more? When did you last sit quietly and just let the world spin without trying to spin along with it? We live in a world where silence, boredom, and genuine rest are rapidly becoming endangered experiences. And maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal at first. Maybe boredom feels uncomfortable, unnecessary, even wasteful. But boredom isn't the enemy. It's actually a hidden doorway. It's the quiet space where our minds can wander, dream, and explore freely. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han reminds us that historically, boredom wasn't something to escape. It was the birthplace of creativity, art, philosophy, and deep self-awareness. But look around today, and you'll notice we've become addicted to constant stimulation. We jump frantically from task to task, chasing the next distraction, scrolling endlessly through feeds, afraid to pause even for a moment. The truth is, we're terrified of stopping. Why? Because stopping would force us to look inward, to confront the exhaustion, the emptiness, and the wounds we carry silently beneath our polished smiles and busy calendars. Instead of feeling deeply, we've learned to skim emotions superficially, to keep life manageable and tidy on the surface. And as a result, we've become disconnected, ironically isolated, even when surrounded by people we care about. But listen carefully. Stopping isn't weakness. Taking a break, slowing down, hitting pause, it's actually how you reconnect with yourself. It's how you rediscover who you truly are beneath all the productivity goals, the checklists, and the endless demands of life. Silence offers you a rare clarity, a clear mirror reflecting just how tired, wounded, and in need of genuine care you truly are. It might seem scary to face at first, but real freedom, the kind of freedom that nourishes your soul, doesn't come from doing more. It comes from reclaiming your right to pause, to rest, and to say no. Think about that for a moment. Saying no is powerful. In fact, it's revolutionary. It's how you resist the pressure to be constantly productive, how you reject the impossible expectations to always improve. Saying no means deliberately choosing to exist without the exhausting pressure to prove your worth every waking moment. It's standing up in your own quiet but fierce way against a world that values your output more than your well-being. And this burnout you're feeling, it's not a personal failure. It's not laziness. It's your body and soul desperately crying out for a different way of life. You're not weak. You're exhausted by a system relentlessly demanding the impossible, day after day. Recognizing this isn't just important, it's essential for healing. Because the first step toward change is simply noticing that something's deeply wrong. Now, if all of this resonates deeply with you, if it feels like I've described something you've carried privately for far too long, I want you to know you're not alone. Leave this sentence in the comments below. Rest is my revolution. Because it's time we acknowledge that resting is brave, revolutionary, and profoundly human. Make sure to watch the next video you see suggested on the screen. Real transformation never happens all at once. It unfolds slowly, conversation by conversation, insight by insight, until one day you wake up feeling freer, clearer, and finally at peace with yourself. Thank you for being part of Mosaic Mind.